healing is not something done to you. It's something you learn to do inside in yourself. And it begins by reclaiming your inner authority and also your inner trust and really trusting yourself. And everything in my next guest's book supports that concept. I'm super excited to be joined by a wonderful, wonderful woman. She's an author and she's an spiritually integrated psychotherapist. And her name is Terry Folks. And she's just written a new book called Another Spring, A Year of Self-Therapy and Spiritual Practices for Every Woman. Terry, I love your book. Welcome. Look at that. Welcome, Terry, to Healing Forward.
Oh, what a wonderful name for a podcast series. Healing Forward. It's interesting, Barbara. It actually combines, the old expression, paying forward.
Oh, yeah, of course.
Yeah. And so those of us who are wounded healers, we can heal forward.
Oh, I love that. I love that because
Isn't that interesting?
I relate to that. And also too, we have to move forward. And I know you believe that as we personally evolve ourselves, we can evolve the consciousness of the world. You've talked about that.
Yeah. Very deep, firm belief.
Yeah.
Taking responsibility for our own personal evolution and our own theology. Theology is the feminine version of theology. So taking responsibility for our own spiritual growth and conscious evolution, that's a hallmark of my work.
Well, that is really compelling to me because I think that's what the world needs. And I think, in fact, we are doing that. But the duality I see is some are not, because some of us are disconnected from trusting ourselves and our own intuitive sense and our self-authority. And without authority over our lives, I don't know how we can move forward. And so I like to imagine women as being very empowered and empowered to heal. And I encourage them to buy your book on Amazon and read it. I mean, you talk about self-therapy. What is self-therapy? Let's start there.
So I think one of the myths that I dispel in my book right from the beginning is that someone else is going to tell you how to do your life, or a therapist is actually going to heal you. And I dispel that myth by pointing to some early research on what counseling really is and what the factors for change are. And the number one mover and shaker in the therapeutic relationship is the client. So I really believe that this book empowers women to take hold of their own healing. Now, healing, the etymology of the word healing, it actually means wholeness. And so that aligns with my focus on integration. So integration means we take the physical, the intellectual, the emotional, and the spiritual, and we bring it all together for wholeness in an integrated way. And that's what the book is about, how to heal yourself and how to remember your original trust in yourself that you probably had around, probably it's strongest when girls enter the moratorium around 8, 9, and 10. That's a real pivotal time for girls. And so my work is to bring women back to that beautiful sovereignty, I would call it, inner authority, where they could trust themselves.
Oh, I love that word, sovereignty, to be in our sovereign self. What what becomes true when we're actually able to be embodied in our sovereign self?
Well, you just said something really interesting. You used the word embody. And that is so astute of you and so perfect a way to describe what sovereignty is. What happens in our culture is because as soon as our gender is identified, we are groomed, trained up to be of service to others. And in that process, not only do we lose our trust in ourselves, but we come out of our bodies. We become disembodied. We start seeing the world as correct through the lens of others, and we we relinquish our own trust in our vision of the world as true for us. And so we become disembodied. The title of my second book, the one I'm working on now, is Otherwhelmed. It's a word I coined a word to describe otherwhelmed being not in your body and overwhelmed in your service to other people. So you're getting further and further away from your autonomy, your sovereignty, your inner authority, and your ability to trust yourself. And so
Now,
the work is to become, yeah.
but when that happens, we're then a victim, correct? Like, or is that when we're a victim, when we're otherwhelmed and not
Well,
connected
we might
to
feel like, yeah,
how we
we might
feel?
feel like a victim.
Okay,
We're
okay.
not really. We've chosen that. We've been groomed for that. We have options, but we don't always see that we have a choice.
So we're
It's not,
unconscious.
we live in a, yeah, we're unconscious. Exactly. So, yeah. But trust, I mean, I have a theory of anxiety it's a working theory in my clinic. And it seems to be bearing out over the decades that, so stay with me on this one, that anxiety equals a loss of trust in the self. So
Wow.
when you don't trust yourself, you feel anxious. Well, it behooves me as a therapist to then go, well, how did you lose that trust in yourself? When did the seeds of anxiety begin? And again, I go back to that. Carol Gilligan wrote a beautiful book called In a Different Voice, um, Women, Girls, and Psychotherapy. She's written a number of beautiful books, and I draw on her work a lot to describe what happens to girls and women in their development. And at some point, a young girl, a woman, a young girl, possibly younger, has said, I know this is true. And someone said to her, no, no, you're imagining it. You're making it up. You're over dramatic. You're too sensitive. And suddenly but I actually know it's true. And the person says, no, no, no. Now, what happens there is her understanding of what's true. She's not getting positive reinforcement for that. She's told she's wrong. So
Okay.
it's usually in younger years where she needs approval. Well, in order to get approval, you just kind of go along. Oh, well, I guess I am too sensitive. I guess I can't trust myself. I guess, right? And you see what's happening at the undermining of trust in self.
Yeah.
It translates anxiety, right? It looks like anxiety on the surface. Uh, but really, the work in my practice and in the book is how do we begin to trust ourselves again, right? How do we begin to connect with that beautiful tool that everyone has, men and women, which is intuition, an embodied cognition of what is true for ourselves. So that is my theory of anxiety being the erosion of trust in the self, and the work being to work toward developing and growing that, returning to that trust in the self and reducing anxiety. And it works. It's amazing how it works.
I think it's very, very important what you just shared, because I believe and I see many women are suffering with anxiety. And I'm just saying, because I have a private Facebook group of women, and we're 10,000 women strong, and anxiety is always a common theme that I see. I'm going to send you a link, and we're going to put your book in that group. Anxiety is always a problem, and also I've suffered with anxiety most of my life. So, as some say,
Barbara, I'm sorry.
Oh, that's okay. And I know young adolescents that have anxiety as well. And thank you for that compassion. And it's not, so it can be a mystery, but when you say that we can resolve it by rebuilding our self-trust, that's very hopeful to anyone listening, likely.
And it bears out in my work with women.
Okay. I'm just curious, because another thing I see too, but this is more with respect to women who've gone through severe abuse, or trauma. Sometimes it escalates into panic attacks. And is that along the same line? Is that the same thread? Or is that something completely different? Because you're a psychotherapist and I'm not.
Well, that brings us back to embodiment. So I've said this before, but we have new listeners, and they may not have heard this from me before. I call the body, or from the neck down, I call it the big brain. And I call it the big brain because it's so intelligent. Our body, she loves us. And she doesn't speak Spanish or English or French. She speaks symptoms. And if you're not listening to the symptom, not paying attention, like she's trying to say, hey, Barbara, for example, I'm going to give you this symptom because I really want you to pay attention to this pattern in your life. And I want you to give it some thought. And I want you to maybe consider some healing and wholeness around it. And if you don't listen, your body loves you. It only has one agenda. And that's to heal and to grow. Wow. So she'll up the ante. She'll give you a bigger symptom, something that you might pay more attention to. And that's where a panic attack might theoretically fall into that continuum of pay attention, wake up. There's something that needs to be attended to here. It's not a punishment. It's not a negative, oh my God, you did the bad, you're wrong or something's wrong with you. That's never the case. Every behavior serves a function. Every action, especially in our body's cognition, I call it embodied cognition. It's a loving message to pay attention, to wake up, to look at that area of your life that you're resistant looking at, and go there. Wow. And that anxiety, that level of anxiety that's embodied, is a beautiful wake-up call. And I've watched those dissipate and decrease over time relative to how much we build your trust back in yourself. It's a wild formula. It's really fun.
Yeah, that is really a beautiful, like, I'm imagining growing in self-trust, how you would move through the world if you were really, strong and deeply embodied in I trust myself.
Yeah. Not easy in the patriarchy, because remember, we've been in exile 3,000 years, and that's a long time. And we've
Which,
developed all kinds of tools and maneuvers and ways to manipulate reality to get what we need because we're in exile. That's what refugees do. But we've become, over 3,000 years, we've developed these habits and ways of being in the world that don't actually serve us long term. So trying to have a woman gather her courage and 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 begin the work of rebuilding her intuition, it's always there. It just needs to be honored and strengthened.
okay.
Yeah.
What did you mean when you said we've been in exile for so many years? Because I know listeners might not have understood that concept.
Oh, that's based on the work of uh, Maria Gambudis. She was an archaeologist who found evidence of uh, matriarchal cultures 3,000 years ago, Minoan culture in
Oh,
Crete, around in Greece. And the northern invaders, I think they were Kurdish, um, this was the beginning of the patriarchy, where we were matriarchal and we honored women as life givers. It was peaceful. Women were mathematicians. They were teaching. They were learning. They were scientists. They were amazing. But when the invasions happened and the goddesses were dispelled, and one male god was introduced to the planet, then we had to say goodbye to a way of being that was peaceful, philosophical, poetic, artistic, knowledgeable, and woman honoring. So I'm referring to her story, and many of your viewers won't know anything about her story because we're not taught it, and you're not allowed to learn it in the patriarchy. The patriarchy is a system, a machine. So you're only allowed to learn history. You're not actually allowed to learn true history. So I
that's
try, and many of my other women I serve and the women I consult with, we try very hard to help uh, correct this, but it has to be one woman at a time.
that's really incredible. When I was in the day, I went to art school. And I did do a minor in women's studies. And so I have like some flashbacks of this type of teaching, but you would only find that in art school for, to do, or, women's studies. So it's not
Liberal
something,
art.
yeah, yeah. So it's very interesting that you bring up that point. As you know, I'm a Canadian and I live now in beautiful Mexico. And I love it, but it's very misogynistic culture at times here, very male dominated culture. And so I didn't know that before I came here. I didn't think about it. I just came.
Yeah.
But it does play out in your everyday societal reaction realities and it's interesting cultural difference or mhm.
Do you find it affects the way you walk and talk and interact?
Definitely, yes, it does affect us because yes, especially those that were back to your upcoming book, those of us that have been um, had challenges with being, what did you call it? Otherwhelmed, where we're more outwardly
Mm-hmm.
focused. When you go into a culture where men are right, men have more power, men have, they just basically have more power here. Or they're always viewed
Yeah.
as like more correct, and
Yeah.
it's deeply embedded in the culture. So and it's and women are often the kind of like more prone to be Barbie dolls here, and um, and so to please. So it's like, yeah, it's like, hey, you know what? In Canada, we're empowered women. We're allowed to like have our own things and do our own things and make. We're allowed to make money and be real estate agents. And so it is a very different paradigm. I see we've gone off on a tangent, but it's
No, but
interesting.
I love your example. That's a very beautiful personal example of a woman like yourself who said, okay, I might live in a patriarchal culture, even misogynistic, but that's not going to stop me because you have the courage, Barbara, to say, okay, this might be the culture I find myself in, but it's not going to stop me.
Yes, that's true. It's so important. So we have so many things that we have to move forward in life and navigate, and as women and as human beings. You said something interesting in your material that I was reviewing, and I might misquote it, but you say you feel the way that humans honor the earth actually reflect how we honor women. And I was like, hoping you could tell me what does that mean?
It's a cosmological or global perspective that I've sort of studied over the decades. Because I'm earth-based spiritually, uh, a lot of my spiritual practices honor Mother Earth, and she has been so good to us. And I play a lot with earth, air, fire, and water, and the directions that align with north, east, south, and west, earth, air, fire, water. I tend to um, equate the life giving power of the earth with the life giving power of women. And a couple of weeks ago, International Women's Day event here in the Valley, where I live in Canada on Vancouver Island, we had an event called Sacred Rage, and some people were afraid of the title, but it was meant to be. It was held at the curling rink. It was meant to be.
Very boring.
It was meant to be a gathering of women who would allow themselves to grieve the loss of the matriarchy, the loss of women's power, what's happening in the world right now with the loss of women's rights. And I was invited to be a speaker. And I did a call and response. And part of that speech was how we treat women is how we treat the planet. How we treat the planet is how we treat women. How we treat women is how we treat the planet. How
Oh
we
my God.
treat the planet, treat women. So you hear the call and response happening, and it was like all these lights started coming on. You could see people's eyes just opening up and going, what? Oh my God, what? Because it's a basic respect for life. It's an honoring of those of us who are life givers, whether we're child free or child full. We are still capable as women of carrying life for 40 weeks, 10 months, and that being grows within us. And we choose to do that with our bodies, some of us. Some of us don't. We have that right to choose. And if we choose to do that, well, every human is born of a woman. So shouldn't we revere her? It just makes sense. Like, wait, what? Everyone's born of woman. How could you possibly only consider her a human being with the right to vote 100 years ago? Like, it's unfathomable
It's
how
truly,
much we lost, right?
it's truly
And
unfathomable.
try. Yes. Oh my goodness. Look at what we do. Look at what we do. We're amazing. We're amazing. There's no one that's not born of woman. There's no one.
That's true. We are amazing as women. You're right to ponder that. That was, I'm so glad I asked you that question because, yeah, it was just my field was just popping off when you said that about the earth. When you kept repeating that question about the earth and women, and I was like, oh yeah, I
Well,
could.
you'll notice, and you'll notice in this book that I spent a lot of time talking about how caring for the planet and dismantling the social construction that restricts us, and what we can do as stream keepers, or the work we do in permaculture, aquaculture, how we can honor her, our mother, and how dependent we are on her for the bodily energy changes in the seasons. I mean, the whole book is based on all of that. So it's juicy that way.
Mm, I say, I so encourage people to read the book. I mean, it's a great way to get to know you in this conversation, and then to be able to have that book all year long through every season. And you can come back to the book many times as a resource guide and friend, I think.
I love your sort of theme of the conversation of trust, uh, and building that trust in ourselves. And I think every part of this conversation can be, we can weave it back to that. We trust our bodies in the energetic changes that happen with the seasons, if we're fortunate enough to live in a place where there are four seasons. But even if we're not, we can still feel the effect of the change in light anywhere in the world. And we can trust that the earth and the climate and what's happening, it's important for us to take care of her as much as it is to take care of ourselves. And we can trust that that's good work. That's very good work.
Oh, that's kind of a very relieving thought, to trust that that's good work. It's a relieving thought because we come to an awareness, I think, that everything's connected. We're all connected and everything's connected. Mhm. So I like that we're building these awarenesses. How does our intuition serve us? Because I think many people listening are going to be more aware that they might want to tap into building their intuitive senses, or calling on their intuition to be more loud, if you will.
I think that I would direct them probably to the late chapters 10, 11, and 12 for that work. And basically, if I were to summarize some of that, it's understanding that intuition is this beautiful ability to see patterns and to synthesize what we see and what we smell, what we taste, what we touch, and what we hear. That all the five senses are involved. It's very fast. And the sixth sense, the third eye, the intuition, is developed with all of that data, which is why I focus so much on earth, air, fire, water. It's because well, first of all, we wouldn't exist without it. Um, but second of all, it's where we have our personal physical experience as a person. Uh, I mean, I risk psychobabble here, but it's phenomenological, meaning we can only trust what our lived experience tells us. Like, we know when we're changing a shitty diaper that we're changing a shitty diaper. This is the thing about women. We do the
True.
dirty, we do the nasty, like the real, we get gritty. We do the real stuff. But it's on our bodies. Like, it's not dirty, it's not base. It's not like we should be covering our heads or our feet because it's too tempting for men. We are dealing with reality. We've given birth, there's blood there. And this is real. And yet the mind body split says no, the body's base, it's bad, it's not good. Let's stay in our head, let's stay above it all. And it's so dismissive of most of human life, where people They poop. They plant gardens. They they till the soil. They harvest vegetables. This is life. And to sanitize it or to sterilize it and try to really open that mind body split is just such an injustice. We're whole beings. We're emotional, we're intellectual, we're physical, we're spiritual, we're whole. We're yummy. So intuition is about trusting that, knowing in your body what you know and how you feel about something. Feel meaning feel as in your body, tactile, in how you actually experience the world. You can trust that. Gavin de Becker wrote a beautiful book called The Gift of Fear. And he shocked a lot of people by showing how women will be polite when they're being attacked,
Oh, yes.
or how prior to the event, the trauma event or the attack, they knew in their bodies. Over 3,000 years of honing that peripheral vision and that intuitive spidey sense, and they ignored it. Why? Because we've been groomed in the patriarchy to ignore that. That's why we have anxious women.
I
We're coming
agree.
full circle now.
I love coming full circle, and it's so true. It's so, so true. I'm sure so many women can relate and understand this. I mean, when we feel we were polite before we were harmed or attacked, then later we self-shame ourselves. Like, why didn't I stand up for myself? Why didn't I knew it was going to happen, but we couldn't, right? Because maybe
No.
like, otherwise we would have, because we're always doing the best
And
we can.
we're
And
not
what?
told,
Uh-huh.
we're not actually told that resistance is a form of fighting. My practicum supervisor, great world trauma specialist, Dr. Alan Wade, he taught me resistance theory, and that when a woman is silent, other people might judge her as not fighting. But truth be told, she's keeping herself safe. That is her form of resistance. Until such a time when there's an opening for her to run or to fight, she's going to fawn or freeze first. Because I do the four F's, not the three F's. I do uh, flight, fight, freeze, or fawn. And it's the fawning piece, I think, that Gavin, he doesn't use the word fawning, but I think that's what he's trying to get at, that women have learned over the millennia to fawn, to seek approval in order to stay safe. It's a trauma reaction. So that's why we're so polite and we're so nice. And it's just like, it's not Stockholm syndrome exactly, but it kind of, when you sort of join your captors, you don't need a cage,
Oh
but
my
you're
God.
also safe.
Yes,
Wow.
that's I think it's so important what we're actually what you're sharing, because when you I had no idea we were going to talk about this, but when you look at the stats of how many women are raped, how many girls are raped, how many women are sold, how many girls are sold, how many women give away their power. Oh, I mean, I don't want to say, but I mean, almost every woman's gone through it. And so it is very important what you just said, that we are aware of that, and that we do fawn, we do freeze, it's like it's helpful, Terry. Yeah, thank you for sharing
Oh,
that.
yeah, this is the work. Yeah, yeah, this is the work, isn't it, eh? Is to
Mm-hmm.
build each other up. Because fawning, if you think about it as seeking approval, some women will throw their sisters under the bus to get approval. If you think about being a refugee in exile, which we are, it's very tempting to gain merit or brownie points or fit in or not rock the boat. It's hard to be courageous and say, no, that's not okay. What you're doing to my sister. We're trained to compete with women, which is ridiculous. Like, how are we supposed to build each other up and empower each other if we're competing? It doesn't make any sense. I mean, I'm
I'm
thinking about my Sophia. What?
I totally
What were you
agree.
going
I
to say?
mean, I totally agree with what you're saying. How can we build each other up as women when we're competing? And I mean, I guess that comes from, and I'm like referencing, decades ago, but of women actually adopting and taking on some of these patriarchal characteristics and becoming, is that, you're nodding your head.
There you are again, Barbara. Well, no, because I love how intelligent and astute you are, and you bring these things up. That internalized misogyny or internalized sexism or internalized, some people call it internalized toxic masculinity, they call it, meaning we start to see the world as correct through their eyes, not our own.
Oh,
Again, we're
this,
having a full circle, right? Where we're coming back to trusting ourselves and trusting that what we see and experience is true. This pat on the head, oh, you're oversensitive, or you're imagining things. The erosion of trust in the self. It works for the patriarch. It keeps the machine going.
that's
So
very,
it's
very,
really, really
very interesting. It's fresh on the mind, and I think when I come to interview someone, we get kind of attuned. But I'm also selling professional real estate here, and I was working for a brand, a luxurious brand, and this brand said that they welcome women, but they still, it was a very corporate environment, and I still found the women under this brand um, tearing other women down. And I was like, wow, if we just supported each other. And they had, it was exactly what you're talking about. I thought, well, they're acting like corporate men. And I just thought, damn,
wow,
damn, but it was a
wow.
reality, total reality.
It's
And
disappointing.
so
It's
they,
disappointing.
it was disappointing because they walked the walk, but they didn't talk the talk. And,
Or they
and
talk. Yeah,
that. Hmm.
yeah, yeah. No, I hear what you're saying. I know exactly what you mean. And they're not even conscious that they've internalized this attitude toward their sisters. They're not even. I have Sophia on Sunday. My group meets once a month and for a couple of hours. And this Sunday, we're doing the matriarchal lineage, where I might say, my name is Terry Folks. I am the daughter of Marjorie McDowell, who went by March Folks. And I honor the learning and the gifts of my mother as she honors the gifts of her mother, Dottie. And then I do the whole lineage as far back as I can go. And then I say, and all the sisters and all the mothers from Africa. And it's really moving to have women do their matriarchal line. It's hard, it's challenging because the male name is the one in the patriarchy, you go by the male line. But it wasn't always so. And to be able to honor your matriarchal lineage, it's such an incredibly moving experience. But it's part of the work in Sophia of we are sisters meant to build each other up, to help raise the children, to fight against war, which sounds like an oxymoron, but we can actually help the world see how incredibly ludicrous it is to take a human life for any principle, for any reason. We're life givers. It's deeply offensive to us. If we were back in the matriarchy, there wouldn't be a war because we would never send our boys and girls. We would never do that. It just wouldn't make sense to our logical brain. But in order to live in the patriarchy, sometimes you got to twist your brain a little bit. And that might mean throwing your sisters under the bus, which is tragic. It's going along with the machine. It's making it stronger rather than dismantling the incredible power imbalances that we should really be focused on. Yeah, especially children.
Yes, especially children. I mean, these are incredibly important topics that we just ended up going there. We went so deep today, and
Well,
I
it's
think,
all in the book. No, we're not really off. Sorry.
oh, it's all in the book. Okay, well, I mean, I just meant that all my questions, I just have to like get rid of them because we just, that was more what I was referencing, but such very valuable conversation today, Terry. And thank you for writing your book and sharing it with the world. Another Spring, available on Amazon, Amazon in the States, Amazon in Canada, and also available on Terry's website and in bookstores, of course. Terry, what is your website and how can folks reach out to you if they want to learn more about you? Everything will be in the show notes, but yeah.
I think that probably the best, easiest way to start is to go to spiritfirstcounseling.ca.
Okay.
And my website is maintained. I'm really proud of it. I'm in it every day. I'm adding blogs, podcasts, meditation strategies. It's all free. Anyone can go into my website and help themselves. My Facebook author page, there's a personal page, but I had to create that in order to have a portal to my author page. And that is maintained every day. It's fresh, it's new. And on the author page, I have strategies and spiritual practices and ways of uplifting women that people can access. I have Instagram followers. There's so many ways to reach me. Probably starting with the book is not a bad idea. The reviews are amazing. I had no idea what people would write. People I've never met and what they're writing as reviews on Amazon. Oh my God, Barbara, who are these people? Some of them I know, but some I'm like, thank you for reading my book, first of all, and writing that review. Like, it's so it's just like, I had no idea. My goal was to empower as many women as possible with this book. And then move on to something else, move on to another book, right? And then all of a sudden this thing has gained this momentum. It's like, thanks to you, Barbara, and to Tina Clipston, the publisher. It's been quite astonishing.
Oh, I'm so happy for you, and congratulations. Clipston Publishing is also so very proud of you. The book's doing incredibly well on Amazon. And again, to empower women, Terry, it's always a pleasure. Thank you. I'm going to have to say that virtual time goes faster, but it's been such a delight. And I wish you all the
And I want to congratulate you on Healing Forward. I think this is a brilliant idea, Barbara. You're so full of good ideas, aren't you? But bringing them to fruition is really the goal. Congratulations, my friend.
Thank you very much. And thanks for being part of my top 10 first guests. And we're launching April 24th on my birthday. So Yahoo, and sending out a lot of love to everyone. Yeah.
A week from today.
Yes.
Well, happy birthday, Barbara.
Thanks, Terry. Thanks for your support and thanks for your sharing and your wisdom, and wishing everyone out there.
Always.
Thanks, Kay.